Sir Planning Commission to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Jim. Here. Ted. Here. Tom. Here. Stacy.
Here.
Cecil.
Yes.
Blake.
Here.
And I'm here. All commissioners are present. Item 3, approval of minutes. Do we have any changes, comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the March 14th, 2023 minutes of the Basehor Planning Commission meeting.
Second. All in favor? Blake?
Yes.
Yes. Stacy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Yes. Jim? Yes. I vote yes. Minutes are approved. Declarations of receipt of communication by any planning commissioners. Declaration of ex parte, any reason to exclude yourselves from?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to excuse myself from First State Bank and Trust application for the signage later in the.
Thank you. Item 4, planning director's report.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for being here this evening. We obviously have a pretty full agenda. We do have one item on our agenda, item number 10, which is a text amendment to our zoning and subdivision regulations that your staff is requesting to table until the May meeting. We were not able to get that really working order before this meeting, so we're going to bring it to you in May. Other than that, everything on the agenda will proceed. We do have item number 5, which is a reconsideration of an item that was brought to you in April. That's what we'll open the planning commission meeting. Questions you may have? Otherwise, that's all I've got.
Old business, we have none. Item 5. Reconsider PPP -001 -23. PPP -004 -22 preliminary and final plat for Fairways of Falcon Lakes second plat, formerly Falcon Lakes Villas third plat. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item was originally referred to, as you stated, as Falcon Lakes Villas third plat. This was previously considered by the Planning Commission in April. There was a recommendation for approval. However, that vote failed with a vote of 4-3. As is stated in your staff report, this item meets all of the zoning and subdivision regulations. And as such, according to state statute 12752, to be exact, the Planning Commission shall find that the plat is in accordance with the zoning and subdivision regulations. And the Planning Commission shall make a determination that the plat be approved. And therefore, I'll keep these very short and sweet. Your staff is respectfully requesting that you reconsider this item and find a decision of approval for this 2-lot subdivision as it relates to all of the zoning and subdivision regulations.
That said, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to approve case numbers PPP 00123 and PFP 00422 with the proposed conditions as stated by staff and in accordance with Kansas statute.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Jim?
Present.
Ed?
No.
Tom?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Cecil?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes 5-2. Item 6. PSP 001-23. Site plan for Lot 3 of Wolf Creek Junction, final plat, phase 1. Public hearing is required.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Looks like we've got some folks leaving. Can we give them just a moment? to
Sure.
Clear out.
You need it, Mike? Okay.
Just, yeah, just concerned about picking up. Just down. I think he voted against. He voted against. I'm voting for. He voted yes. I know.
Last week we asked them to sit down, so we went silently if they're-
Dave. You need to.
No, but if we have, we have to go along.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Chairman.
Cameron?
Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight before you is agenda item number 6, PSP 001-23. This is a site plan on Lot 3 of Wolf Creek Junction, final plat, phase 1. This application before you is brought by Max DiCarlo with First State Development. The engineer on this project is SM Engineering. Currently, the parcel as shown on the screen is located at the northeast corner of North 155th Street and US Highway 2040. Currently, this parcel is vacant. It is completely empty and is zoned CP1 Neighborhood Business District. The applicant is requesting approval of a site plan application for Taco Bell. This would be a proposal of a approximately 2,000 square foot building with drive-through services as well as in-restaurant dining. Inside, or excuse me, the parking lot would consist of 24 parking spots with 2 of those being ADA compliant. The restaurant should have 17 seats inside for dining, 10 seats for patio, as well as a drive-through lane with an escape lift. Currently, for adjacent land uses, only Casey's and Baumgart's is the only businesses within this area. The rest of Wolf Creek Parkway is vacant. The applicant is proposing to extend the access road that runs east-west north of the property, south onto Lot 3, where Taco Bell would be serviced. Currently, that intersection at 155th and the access road only allows for right in and right out access for vehicles. This access road is a private road, as you can see on top of the screen. Previously in March, case number PV-002-0 was brought to the Board of Zoning Appeals. That was Marty Palmer on behalf of Taco Bell. They did request 4 wall signs and 1 monument sign. However, they were allowed to do 3 wall signs and 1 monument sign. During the architectural review process, the applicant did request an exclusion from glazing as allowed by the basic architectural design standards. Due to the establishment, the type of interior operations on the eastern end of this building, staff did find that it would be appropriate to have this exception from glazing on the eastern side of the building. Staff would recommend approval of case number PSP-001-23. And I stand for any questions.
Questions, comments? Jim, anything? No. Tom?
No.
Dixie?
No.
Question?
No.
No, sir. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval. I'm on the wrong one. I apologize.
We need a public hearing. No.
This does require a public hearing.
Oh, I guess it did. I missed that. I'll entertain a motion for public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I move we open up a public hearing.
Do I have a second? Jim?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Stacy?
Yes.
Cecil?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
public hearing is now open. Staff? Do you have any? We have anything, the applicant like to speak to this?
Sure. First, in here.
Yes.
Hi there, Planning Commission. My name is Max DiCarlo. I'm with First Street Development. We are also an affiliate of Royal City Bell, who is the local franchisee for Taco Bell and the proposed operator of this restaurant. Just want to let you guys know, we're really excited about the opportunity to partner with the community here, and would ask that you approve and support our plan, and we're excited to get rolling with the development here.
Thank you. Anyone in the public care to speak? I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I have a question. With our local fast food restaurants, we seem to have some problem with staffing, and have you guys done any research on that to find out if you're going to be able to keep this restaurant staffed? Are you going to making any special moves to do that, like maybe paying over minimum or something like
Yeah,
that?
we have aggressive wage rates to make sure that we have adequate staffing in the restaurant. We also engage with the community locally, the schools, school districts and other, municipal groups to ensure that we have adequate staffing. And, we also have some other stores down by the Speedway that we can pull from as necessary, and a good employee base here locally.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Anyone else? Commissioner, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we close the public hearing.
I second.
All in favor, Blake?
Yes.
Cecil?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Vote yes, public hearing is closed. I'll entertain a motion.
Okay.
Is Tom gonna do it?
Mr. Chairman, I have a real quick question for staff. Is it appropriate to ask?
Sure.
I'm sorry. In terms of mitigating trash into the kind of general public areas and especially on the highway, are there any things that the planning commission could implement to make sure that trash is contained?
They're proposing an area for, to
Fair enough.
dispose of trash and insert outside.
Fair enough. Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else? Again, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we approve case numbers PPP 00123 and PFP 00422. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Yes, B, my apologies. Okay, thank you. With the proposed conditions.
Second.
All in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Cecil?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes,
Vote yes, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much, commissioners and staff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Item 7. PSUP 001-23, special use permit for monument sign for First State Bank, excuse me, at 15330 Wolf Creek Parkway. Staff?
Good evening, commissioners. Agenda item number 7 is PSUP 001-23. This application is brought to you from Damon New of First State Bank and Trust. The sign company for this particular item is Tammy Moody with Luminous Neon Inc. This lot is about 3 acres, zoned CP1, and it is currently under development for a financial center. The applicant is requesting approval of a special use permit to install an automatic changeable copy sign as part of their overall monument sign for First State Financial Center. Again, the only areas in this general The only businesses in this general area would happen to be Casey's and Baumgars. When reviewing a special use permit, there are 6 criteria that the planning commission should take into consideration as listed in the staff report before you. Number 1, the use of facility. Number 2, the height of the building. 3, the surrounding land uses and zoning districts. 4, the relationship of the site to the surrounding roadway systems. Number 5, the topography of the site. And number 6, the duration. And I'll just go through these very briefly. The primary use of this building is going to be for state financial, banking and trust services. There are 3 leasable office spaces within this building. One of them has been confirmed out of those 3. The height of this building is approximately 23 feet at the highest point. All of the surrounding land uses in this area are similarly, excuse me, zoned as CP1. And the relationship of the site to the surrounding roadway systems. There is Wolf Creek Parkway on the southern part of this plot. 153rd Street is on the eastern side, and then there is a private drive on the north side that will also provide access to this lot. For topography, the site is relatively flat. There is approximately 10 feet of slope across 680 feet. And for duration, this special use permit would last indefinitely while the applicant is responsible for maintenance. So. And then staff would recommend approval of case number PSP 001-23. And I will answer any questions.
Questions? I abstain. Yep. Good.
No questions.
Good.
No, sir. No, sir.
Tim,
Now,
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case number PSUP 001-23 with any conditions that are stated in the staff report.
I'll second.
All in favor, Blake? Abstain. Abstain.
Yes.
Cecil? Stacy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. 1 abstention. Item 8. PPDP -003-22 and PRZ 003-22. Preliminary development plan for Edgewood for lot C2 of the Pinehurst North final plat and request to rezone from CP2 to PR plain residential.
Thank you,
Staff.
Chairman. This is technically 2 cases, so just a couple of ground rules here. This is a preliminary development plan. It is also a request to rezone a traffic plan from the current CP2 general business zone district to planned residential. Both of these items will require public hearings. You can open 1 public hearing for both items. And then we will also require 2 motions. We'll need a motion for the preliminary development plan, and we will also require a motion for the actual rezoning, and those need to be separate. So 1 public hearing, 2 motions. Okay. All right, great. The applicant of this is Mr. Michael Riley. He is requesting a rezoning of this piece of property that is generally located at 155th and Pinehurst Drive on the south side of Pinehurst Drive, just south of 2440. Again, he is requesting to rezone this piece of property from the general zoning district of CP2 to a planned residential zoning district to allow for multifamily units to be built on this 3.9 acre parcel of land. The adjacent land uses are primarily commercial to the north. In fact, it's completely developed as commercial to the north. The parcels of land immediately east and west of this piece of property are currently vacant. They are similarly zoned though as CP2. The parcels south of this, as you can see on the map, are zoned planned residential. So there is residential development to the south. This property will be accessed via Pinehurst Drive. You can see that the future land use map calls for this location to be rezoned to high density multifamily development. Again, this does require a public hearing, as I previously stated, and as required by state statute, notification was made in both the Leavenworth Times and also to the surrounding property owners. The subject property is approximately 3.9 acres in size and is currently vacant. The zoning of the property, like I've stated, is general business. You have in your staff report a list of items. This is not an exhaustive list of things that are already allowed by right in the CP2 zoning district. These include fast food restaurants, drive-through lanes, retail sales and services, automobile parts sales, bars, taverns, automobile service and repair, and indoor storage. Take note that those are items that are allowed by right. It does not require additional administrative approval from the planning commission. Assuming it is submitted and it meets all zoning regulations, it would be approved. So that's something to keep in mind. The applicant is requesting to rezone the parcel of land in conjunction with the preliminary development plan to downzone this property, and the request is to downzone. The multifamily is a less intense use than general business is. In order to build multifamily units, again, the future land use for this property has been designated as high density residential, which would allow up to 12 units per acre. The proposal as it has been submitted comes in just under the high density residential with, I think it's 11.34 units per acre, making it technically medium density, but right there on the cusp of medium density and high density. The development as it has been proposed is for 5 units. 5 building units, and each unit would provide for 9 dwelling units, so a total of 45 units within the entire development. The apartments inside of each unit would range from studio to 1 and 2 bedroom. There is also attached enclosed garages as part of this development. We do have some pictures of the proposed, the elevations of what is being proposed. The request conforms to the architectural design standards. It also meets the zoning regulations for planned residential district. There are a couple of very minor deviations that are being requested. It is worth noting that the appropriate parking has been provided in addition to the garages that are provided. There's also surface parking to make sure that there's adequate parking and there will not be any off-street parking to service this. The applicant has provided a development that is harmonious with the adjacent residential land uses. The development as presented very much mimics single-family residential. Additionally, the district regulations for the CP2 zoning district allow for a maximum building height of 60 feet. Again, that is what is currently allowed. The buildings that have been presented do not exceed 31 feet, so are nearly half or less than half of what is allowed. However, the downzoning that is being requested to planned residential actually decreases that maximum to 50 feet. But again, this is well below what could be built potentially. The applicant has provided a traffic memo that summarizes the traffic differences between the proposed use and the originally proposed use. Originally, this area was proposed to be a commercial development. The traffic engineer that did the report has found that by rezoning this property and developing what has been presented to you, there will actually be a net reduction of 773 vehicles per day, as opposed to what could be approved, what could be located here. They used a comparison of a dine-in restaurant that does not have drive-through lanes, but a type of restaurant that's expected to have high turnover. Is the comparison that they used, and that traffic memo is presented in your staff report. The applicant is requesting again rezoning the property to the planned residential district, which, as I've stated, does have stricter requirements than the current zoning district has. Again, the proposed development meets or exceeds the planned residential district requirements, aside from the one setback request. The applicant is requesting a deviation from 35 feet, which is what the planned residential zoning district setback is, to 25 feet. The zoning regulations clearly state that the planning commission and the city council can grant this exception to the rule if the planning commission and city council find that it's in the best interest of not only the development as a whole, but that it will not detrimentally impact neighboring properties. Your staff finds that those things are true and recommends that the exception be granted. According to the 2024 Basehor Comprehensive Plan, which was adopted in 2022, like I stated, this high density area, this area has been set aside for high density residential, which would allow for densities of up to 12 units per acre or higher. Again, the proposed development is under that at 12.34, so is generally in conformance with the comprehensive plan, but it's just a little bit below that. Furthermore, the plan that was adopted by the city council states that in order for Basehor to attract the commercial services that many in the community desire, the population will have to continue to grow and density will also need to increase. Currently, there are a few options for medium or high density residential within Basehor. With expanded housing options comes a more diverse citizen base with diverse shopping habits, incomes, and needs. And this diverse economic base is likely to spur commercial development while simultaneously contributing to a greater sense of identity for the community. And as such, the comprehensive plan has called out locations such as this where it would be appropriate to have higher density development than single family. I would like to point out just a couple of facts for you all to consider when you're making this determination. Your staff did a very brief rundown of the housing market in the city of Basehor, and as I think we all know, the housing market here is competitive. The average home in March sold for $399,000. Overall, the 2023 median sale price is just under $380,000. Assuming a loan term of 30 years and 20% down, the average person would need to earn over $117,000 a year to afford just their mortgage on a home in the city of Basehor. That does not account for any additional serviceable debt. It does not account for income, for student loan or credit card debt or a car payment or anything. It's just $117,000 a year to afford the typical home that is sold in the city of Basehor. There is a need in communities such as Basehor to have diversity of housing, and apartments and townhomes can fulfill that need when appropriate. Townhomes similar to those that are presented are often the housing of choice for young professionals who may not be ready to purchase a home. Again, staff did a very quick survey of the employment market in Basehor and in the metro area. The Basehor-Linwood schedule of salaries states that the starting pay for a teacher straight out of college is approximately $45,000 a year. A new police officer to the Basehor's police force can expect to earn just under $50,000 a year. A nurse right out of college can expect to earn between $55,000 and $64,000 per year. The point of this is quite obviously, I think that these sorts of developments offer a place for young professionals to call a place like Basehor home, for them to invest in the community until they are able or ready to purchase one of the lovely homes that we have here in our terrific city. Furthermore, the city of Basehor's active transportation plan has identified a proposed greenway in the general vicinity of this development. The developer is aware of this requirement, and if this is approved during the final development plan process, is willing to set aside an area for a future trail. In addition to the previously mentioned front yard setback, the applicant is also requesting a deviation from the architectural standards. You'll notice that the developments here show 4 garage doors on one face. Our architectural standards do not allow for more than 3 doors unless an exception is granted. In order to make this development work with the garage units, this is the way that it needs to be built. So the applicant is requesting that we do grant that exception, but has offered to do 2 different door types to bring a little bit of visual appeal to the development so that it doesn't look like just one solid wall of garage doors. Staff is generally supportive of that. Again, you can grant that exception and staff is supportive of it. That's kind of the preliminary development plan portion of this. We're proposing 45 apartment homes on 3.9 acre tract of land, again, in the planned residential district. You also, as you know, have factors that need to be considered for the rezoning portion of this. And so I will go through those factors that are required. Character of the immediate area. The land surrounding this request varies in nature from commercial to the north and vacant to the east and south and planned residential to, or sorry, vacant east and west and to the south planned residential, excuse me. The parcels to the north of this property, as I stated, have been fully developed. There's ample surface parking. There's a number of retail stores, a couple of small restaurants. And then again, the parcels to the south are residential in nature. They're located at the end of cul-de-sacs, very typical to what you would see development wise in the city of Basehor. The zoning and uses of the nearby property to the north, east, and west of the subject parcel are all zoned as CP2, which is general business. And the property to the south is zoned as planned residential. The properties again to the north have been developed and the properties to the east and the west have not been. The suitability of the property for the uses to which it has been restricted. The property is currently zoned as CP2 and the request is to down zone the property from the general business district, which allows a variety of uses, which I previously stated, such as indoor storage, fast food, restaurants, bars, taverns, retail. Typically, it is recommended that a buffer exists between single-family residential and commercial. The buffer is commonly multifamily. You will see that in communities all across the country. You'll see that on comprehensive plans and future land use maps and zoning maps throughout the Kansas City metro. And again, throughout the country, you will see and this transitionary zone, right? Where you have your single family, your denser multifamily, your densest multifamily, and then you start to give way to commercial, heavier commercial, and then ultimately industrial, which is typically the way that zoning transpires. So the suitability of the property, again, this property is suitable to be used as multifamily and again, would kind of conform to zoning norms that you see. The extent to which removal of the present zoning will detrimentally affect nearby property. This request is unlikely to negatively impact nearby property. The proposed rezoning provides for a needed housing type in the city of Basehor, provides a buffer between existing businesses and single-family residential. The length of time the property has remained vacant, the property has never been developed. Relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare by the destruction of the value of the petitioner's property as compared to the hardship imposed upon the individual landowners. The proposed rezoning provides for an improved land use scenario in the opinion of staff and currently exists. The current zoning allows for general business by right and includes many uses which are not compatible or desirable with single-family residential. Approving the rezoning request will provide a transition from single-family to multifamily and then to general business. The property owner currently has the right to develop the property as general business, which is a more intense use. As such, the denial of this rezoning is unlikely to detrimentally impact the applicant. However, development of this property as general business, in the opinion of your staff, is not in the best interest of the surrounding community. The recommendation of your staff is to recommend approval of this request. And finally, the conformance of the requested rezoning to the adopted comprehensive plan. Again, the comprehensive plan has identified this area as high density residential. This proposal comes in just under that high density. It is generally in conformance with the comprehensive plan, and your staff again recommends approval of this. This item, once again, does require a public hearing. Your staff will answer any questions that you may have. With that, I'll turn it over to you.
Question? Blake?
No, sir.
Good.
Not right now.
I have three real quick questions. Crystal, can you please just briefly again, for my own edification, tell me the difference between a preliminary plan, development plan, and the action for that versus the rezoning that's being considered?
Yes, so with the city of Basehor, when we are considering rezoning to a planned district, the city requires additional oversight. So what the city requires is that the developer provide to you a plan of what they're going to do, as opposed to just rezoning to say industrial. And I'm just using that as an example, but not a planned industrial. They could just come and say, I'm requesting this be rezoned to industrial, and you don't really have any idea of what is going to go in. With the planned residential development and the accompanying preliminary plan, you all have, one, you know what's going in, and you have the ability to weigh in on the development.
Thank you. You talked about down zoning. Let's talk about the reverse of that. If someone were to come in and try to upzone this property, what would that look like?
Well, to upzone the property, you would be talking about an industrial zoning. Your staff would not support an industrial zone request.
And then lastly, the front yard setback reduction, is that on Pine, is that front Pinehurst? Is that consideration?
And the south also. So yes,
Thank
a reduction.
Two quick questions for Crystal, real quick. Did we consult emergency services on this, due to the fact that apartment complex generally are exponential growth of the population, even if it is small? Have we consulted emergency services, and if so, what was their assessment?
No, we have not. They will submit, the applicant is required to show proof that the fire district has been consulted and that everything has been handled on that end when the final development plan comes through. We did request, I think there is a letter in there from staff requesting that the developer show that there is adequate space for emergency vehicles.
Right. That makes sense. And then, did we consult the school district?
We did not consult the school district on this development, on this specific development. However, there has been communication from the city with the school district over the last several months regarding the plans, the comprehensive plan of the city and the intention of the city as far as development goes, so that the school district can plan accordingly for that. And they are aware of the comprehensive plan, future land use map, and potential for multi-family development.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, you have anything?
No.
Mr. Chairman. I've
Yes.
got one more question if I could. I didn't read in here, Crystal, but does the applicant have included in their plans any kind of tree planting between the existing property owners on the south side and where these will be built?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Commissioner Waters. That's a great question. So yes, it is, a landscape plan is required and it was, a preliminary landscape plan was submitted. There is, they're conserving certain trees and then there is additional plantings that will take place.
Thank you.
Requires public hearing. I'll entertain a motion to open. public
Mr. Chairman, I move for opening the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor, Blake?
Yes.
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 Tom?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
The public hearing is now open. Would the applicant like to speak? Please state your name.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Mike Riley here on behalf of Blue Star Properties and Riley Development. First of all, thank you for your time tonight. If I could clarify maybe one thing in staff report, and it could be a mistake on our application, but I believe the properties to the west of our site have been rezoned and are actually under construction. I think it was noted that the properties directly to our west were still vacant ground, and that is actually the assisted living facility and the new memory care that is under construction, both being rezoned to R3, the same zoning class code that we are going for. Ours is just a planned version of that. So just one clarification of that. If I could just give you a little bit of brief history, the original plat for this particular property was done in 2006. And at that point in time, this particular lot was shown, as was noted in staff's report, as a one-story sit-down restaurant and a two-story office building on this particular lot. The zoning, as was stated, was more commercial and then jumping directly to residential. Our firm purchased this property about 1.5 years ago in an auction when the bank put all of the property that was available in the Pinehurst subdivision up for online auction. We purchased it because we are deeply involved in base-year development, as you all know, from a residential standpoint, from a commercial standpoint, and we saw the need for a potential other use, whether that be the continued C2 or a potential other project. When we purchased this particular lot, truly, I will tell you, we had no plan in mind. And my first action was to call a neighborhood meeting. That was my goal, was to sit down with the neighborhood to say, hey, do you know that it's zone C2? Do you know that without public, input, all of those uses that were put up on the screen, bars, restaurants, fast food, drive-through, retail, office buildings, all of those are permitted today without input. We had about 20 members of the community to our south. I invited, again, because it wasn't a rezoning effort at that point in time, I invited every household that was on Glenview cul-de-sac and the 155th Terrace that backed up immediately to this lot. We didn't exclude anybody. I think the actual president of the HOA might have been at that meeting. But nevertheless, we did have a good turnout. We had about 20 members of those two cul-de-sacs show up. And the overriding question was, from a developer standpoint, A, do you know that it's zone C2? Some did, some didn't. Some did not understand that somebody could walk in today with a plan and a building permit, and as long as it abided by base or code, they could proceed. And my question was, would you want to see a different option? And that was really an open-ended question. The answer to that would be a multifamily project. And so the consensus from that meeting, and I by no means am speaking for anybody, but the consensus I took away from that meeting was that group was interested to see what a multifamily project could look like. And my goal with having these neighborhood meetings was to prevent a sold out room tonight. We'll see how well we did in that regard. But we took the next 3 or 4 months, hired our architect, hired our engineer, came back to the group in fall of last year with a potential project. And it's very similar in design from a platting standpoint. The design architectural buildings are different than what I had shown to the group at that point in time. We had some design conflict and characteristic conflict with the elevations that I had shown them. But from a platting standpoint, the 5 lots or the 5 buildings, the 45 units, the garages underneath the units were exactly as they were then as they are today. I took from that meeting, again, we had a second meeting, showed the same group, I believe, again, the president of the HOA showed it at that meeting. We talked through options. Again, I took from that meeting a consensus that they liked what we were doing. By no means was our plan perfect, I'm sure. I would highly assume that the best case scenario for everybody at Pinehurst is nothing happens on this particular lot. I get that. This property, again, being platted and zoned in 2006, it was a pipe dream back then. Basehor is a different town today. You know that from what's taking place residentially and commercially. The fact that you get Taco Bell coming to your city tonight tells you that eyes are on the city of Basehor. And so when we looked at this, we recognized potentially a better fit was to transition that zoning from what was more intense to less intense, similar to what the assisted living facility did and the memory care. It's multifamily, albeit a different client. It is the same multifamily zoning. And so that's what we did. When we first met with the neighborhood, several things came to light. First of all, they said, if we consider, or if we were to look at a multifamily deal, we don't want any more than 2 stories, but understood that. They wanted a landscape buffer, understood that. And they really wanted us to see what we could do with helping their drainage situation that exists today. They are really experiencing some very tough drainage problems from what was done in the development at the early stages. There is an open-ended storm pipe directly in the middle of our lot that catches rain flow and water flow off of Pinehurst Drive and dumps it in the middle of the corner of this lot. Does not tie into the storm system, does not go all the way south, as I believe was originally planned, to the detention pond at Pinehurst. And so it's a problem. It's a problem for the neighbors today. It's a problem for us. I know there's other drainage issues that the neighbors are experiencing, and our commitment was to do all we could to work with what we're given and to work with the memory care developer next to us to tie our systems in to help the situation as much as we possibly can. And I believe we've done that to this stage, right? As was noted, we're in the preliminary phases. There's certainly more engineering that has to be done. But we believe we've captured what we can in that regard. What we've designed is really, yes, it's an apartment building, but quite honestly, it looks and feels more like a condo building. And that was our goal. When you think of apartments, you think of buildings with mass open parking, right? And I know there's been rumors about 100 parking spaces in this particular project. There are 17 open parking spaces to meet code. Everyone else has their own individual parking garage, with the exception of 1 unit per building. They will park in an open space. And our whole goal was to design that with a different look and feel than just a straight apartment complex. From the design of the plat, if you could roll back, maybe to that, can you roll back to the plat aerial? Sorry about that. We don't have to. Thought it might be helpful just to see from a platting perspective. The way we designed it is so that they're, the buildings effectively front both sides. Pinehurst Drive, you will see the front of the buildings, and then the properties to our south will see the front of the buildings as well. So you're not really looking at the garages. You're not looking at the unsightliness of any project. The spine that goes through from an access standpoint in the U shape is all the access, driveways on each side of the building. But again, from an access standpoint, all the garages access this middle road. So from Pinehurst Drive and from the properties to the south, you will not see garages. You will not see those kind of activities that take place. It's more of a backyard feel. So that was our goal in designing what I call more of a condo look as opposed to an apartment. So with that, we did have a third meeting last week after everyone was noticed. We called a third meeting just to have the neighborhood in again. We had about 20-25 members showed. Again, I am not sitting here today telling you our project is perfect with everybody in the room. I do know there are some concerns with some members of the neighborhood to our south about the unknown of the commercial. If multifamily or this particular project is not wanted on this lot, I understand. We just all have to understand today, it is C2. And Taco Bell, as you approved tonight, could easily have gone on this lot with the drive-through, with the lighting, with the dumpsters, with the, the ordering amplifier. All of those things are permitted today. And I'm not trying to scare anybody. That is what's there today. And so, when I look at the devil that you know versus the devil that you don't know, I really think this project will be a Class A multifamily project that is desperately needed in the city of Basel. It's desperately needed in every small town from a new housing perspective. Now you can choose to, approve that or not, but it's needed. When you look at new homes in Basel starting not under 400,000. There is not a new home today being built under 400,000. So I think it will respond to the needs of the community. I think it'll be a class project, and I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
I have a question. What approximately do you think these would rent for?
It's a great question. I've been asked that from the neighborhood. We did a housing study. It's about 8 months old. I'm anticipating somewhere around $1.10 to $1.25 a square foot. That puts our 1 bedrooms in the 1,000 to 1,100 range, our 2 bedrooms in around the 12 to 1,300 range. It will vary depending on the size of the garage. Some units have 2-car garages. Some units have 1-car garage.
Thank you.
You mentioned that there were hydraulic unit or hydraulic problems with this area. I noticed you had 2 basins to collect the rainwater. How much rainwater do they collect? How many inches of rainwater would they collect before they overflowed? And where do they decant to?
Right. I will firmly admit, sir, I'm not an engineer. Our engineering staff has worked with Basler Engineering. GBA is who has reviewed the plans. It went from 1 detention basin to 2. Again, we're dealing with that open pipe as best we can. There is nowhere to take it. So as we sit here today, all that rainwater, all that trash is just being dumped there. It's a combination of our basin and the basin to our west with the memory care that's going to hopefully help the situation. The details of that engineering work will be done for the final development plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Cecil,
No, I'm good. She asked my question.
Blake, do you have
No, sir.
anything? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
This public hearing is for both the development and the rezoning. So, do we have anybody that would like to speak to that? You have 3 minutes, sir. State your name and address.
Okay, my name is Chester Wilson. I live at 817 155th Terrace. I am the HOA president for Pinehurst Estates. Previously, to living in Pinehurst Estates, I lived for about 10 years over in, I don't even know what our development was called, Pines of Pinehurst on the east side of 155th along 154th Place. So I have a lot of history here that dates back from 2008. I think when we bought that property, while we knew it was commercial there, part of the pitch that's given is, well, it's never been developed for so many decades. It's probably never going to be developed again. When we saw the mental health care or the cognitive health care facility go in, and then prior to that, the nursing home, it's like, well, if those are the kind of things that are built back behind there, then that's probably going to be a pretty good, quiet, soft feel. Initially, I think I was one of those people that thought, hey, Mike Riley's plan doesn't look too bad. But I started listening to the people that live in Pinehurst and also the other subdivision that's next to us on the east side of 155th Street. And I went out and got 59 signatures, actually myself and one other board member. And then we have more signatures. Katie, Amy, how many did you guys get? 28. So 59, 79, okay, 87 signatures. So we got 87 residents of not just Pinehurst Estates, but also the other subdivision that's across on the east side that are opposed to it. When I was beating the concrete and running door to door with it, several families, 3 for sure at least, maybe 4 said, you know, we moved from Olathe, we moved from Piper, Shawnee, and we were in a residential area where they built apartments near that. And immediately the crime rate went up when they started filling up. And it's because I think you've got maybe people of lower incomes going into those, they're transit. I get that we need cheaper housing, maybe to attract young professionals here. But let's face it, if you've been to the north side of Kansas City, Missouri, you see a lot of the loft apartments and think these young professionals are going to live there. Why? Because Power and Light District stuff. We're not really going to attract that here. When you open up the website on Baser, we're developed as a bedroom country charm community, a medium to high density apartment. And like she said, okay, it's not high density, but it's right on the border. Takes that look and feel away for those of us that have $500,000 homes now, just right 45 feet on the other side. I mean, moving those setbacks. So I really listen to the people that are living in 155th Circle who are going to back up there and Evergreen Street. And they're like, we're going to have this 2-story thing and 9 families peering right into our backyards. People that you don't know with unfettered access to my backyard. Just because you build a berm doesn't mean, you know, I appreciate the desire for attractiveness. I like the other plan better, but even with that other plan, you still don't get past the fact that in the Myers yard, the Albertsons yard, the Lockridge's yard.
Time's up, sir.
Okay, sorry. All right.
Hi, I'm Ken Larry, 18391 155th Street in Baser. We've been here for a little bit over 5 years. Bought the property because it overlooked the Odding Farm. We're careful to assess the future plans, which we were told at the time, and it may not be exactly correct, but 1.5, 3, 4, 5 acre estates, which are going to draw in more higher income homes in the area. Surrounding this whole area, again, I think I heard the gentleman say you can't touch a home for under 400,000 to 500 plus in a Cedar Lake division. Having experienced similar situations in the past where different developments have come in other parts of the country, and he's also in Kansas, it changes a community. I heard the gentleman say that basically the rent from a efficiency to a 2-bedroom apartment, I think it was anywhere from $1,000 to $1,300. Now, it's a lot of money for anybody, but it's almost nothing in today's community. And if you want to attract professionals, I love Baser, but this is a family community. You're not going to be drawing people out to Baser for a $1,300 apartment if they have to travel. My daughter lives in a power and light district. She pays through the nose. She's a professional, but that's the draw. This is a bedroom community. It's a family community. People have made significant investments. And I'm sorry, but you drop in a home like this to attract people that could, and again, we all start somewhere, but that can't afford $1,000 to $1,300 a month. You're drawing the wrong people. And that's going to reduce our property values. And then I keep thinking about the Audine Park. And so at some point in time, that's all going to change. We accept that. But we bought our home with the understanding that there were going to be large lots, upper scale homes. And you drop a multifamily home or property, the first thing that goes through my mind is Section 8. I know of other states and communities where it's a dumping ground for what's coming across illegally from all these borders. Don't want it to happen in our backyard. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amy Myers. Could you flip back to the plat map that shows the houses and the line for me? My family and I moved there in 2015. As you can see, my house is going to be over on the far side where the property you come into, and we back up to that. I have children that I'm raising, and my neighbors do as well. And if you have cars coming in and having access to our kids, what's going to keep my children safe? What's going to keep them from having an accident, coming through our metal fences, having access to through the fences? We know in today's world, it is not a safe world for our children. We have to do what we can as parents to keep them safe. We had a meeting last week. We were lied to. We were told that rent was going to be $900 and that there was going to be a 40-foot easement. You heard tonight that that's now changed to 25 feet. That's within our backyard to the next property. That is not fair to us. That is not what we thought we were purchasing when we moved in 2015. It was owned by the bank. They were telling us that it probably would not be developed, let alone not an apartment complex. We were told that he would do villas for 50 and over. And then that all of a sudden disappeared and went into apartment buildings, not townhomes, as were stated in the presentation this evening. One of the other things that I feel is just unfair to us is that our way of life is quiet. It is peaceful. It is something that all the neighbors know each other. They look out for each other. If you put this in our backyard, how can we keep everybody safe when we don't know the people that are coming in? We don't know that their rent is cheap. We've been told it'll probably turn into Section 8 housing if it goes cheap. It's not fair to the families. I do work in the school district. All the schools are crowded. What is that going to do when you bring in an apartment complex for more children to the schools? I feel like it's going to put a lot of pressure on them that's already busting at the seams. And so I just hope that you take into consideration mostly our kids and families that live there in a neighborhood, and just please protect and take care of them. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Katie McSweeney and I live at 831 155th Circle here in Vaser. And we are next door neighbors with Amy. And I just want to state that we did know when we moved in that it was zone CP2, and we knew that the bank owned it. It was never zoned for multifamily, and that definitely would have affected our thoughts on purchasing that. Also, I feel like one of the largest selling point that has been shared that would tug on my heartstrings as well is that this would be a wonderful opportunity for teachers and our first responders. And I am a former public school teacher. I taught in 2 different school districts here in the state of Kansas, 1st and 2nd grade. And I'm just here to tell you that on my salary, I could not afford living in one of these apartments. So I think I hear that, and that would obviously, of course, we want to help our teachers and first responders and young professionals, but even to afford a luxury apartment such as the price that has been suggested, I could not have afforded that on my salary. I speak just as a mom and as a former teacher. I have 2 children, 4 and 1, and safety is probably the biggest concern with this, as well as the stress that's going to impact our public school system. My husband is a full-time remote employee from Topeka, Kansas, and we chose Vaser for a reason. I've had the honor of going around our neighborhood and other neighborhoods, and people have been the kindest, most opening people I have met, and it just concreted why we chose to live here. The people have been open, understanding, and willing to hear me out of someone that they don't know. They've opened their doors to me, and they've listened to me about my concerns about my children. No, we cannot choose who goes into these apartments, and nor are all people bad, nor do all people make bad decisions. However, if you're going to put possibly 48 units worth of people, possibly up to 108 people within 25 feet of my back fence line, that is a 4-foot open fence, 4 foot tall, with maybe a 3-foot landscaping berm. That does not stop people from coming up to our fence line, talking to my children, my dog, coming in contact with my family. So I just plead to you, we moved here for just a safe community, a rural community. We did not want to live in Piper or Shawnee. We wanted this to be our home for a reason, and meeting people out and about, it just completely concreted that. So I just plead with you to hear the emails, the petition of the people that we have signed, that we just strongly oppose this, and we just sincerely appreciate you hearing us in our plea for that. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Andy Bordelac. I'm at 15015 Joss Street. I don't live in the community just to the south of the proposed improvements. However, I am a concerned citizen. Like to start off with a clarification. Contrary to the developer's description of a townhome or a condo, these are not townhomes. Townhomes are usually freestanding and are owner occupied. Townhomes and condos, owners have pride in their investment and possess a monetary interest to retain its value. The proposal are apartments. They're not owned but rented by transient and low income type residents. There's no pride of ownership because there's no personal monetary investment, except the money that rent goes to rent, but that does not go toward the purchase of the property. The rent on this particular product, as we were told earlier, was expected to be somewhere where the market bears, estimated between $800 and $900. Comparable to the Heritage Apartments, which is right down the street here at 2312 North 155th, is the exact same amount. But please note, a studio apartment that is not marketed as a luxury townhouse at 94th and State Avenue is currently marked at $1,100 a month. Yet these $800 or $900 apartments will be next door to individually owned and occupied $500,000 homes that show pride of ownership. Within an 8-mile radius of the proposed apartment building, there are over 900 apartment units. This is just an 8-mile radius. That's an 8-minute drive. This does not take into account the rest of KCK, Tonganoxie, Leavenworth, Bonner Springs, or Shawnee. I'm afraid that the increase of any additional apartments in this area, combined with the unstable economic conditions that our country is dealing with right now, will only contribute to an oversaturation of apartments. And this proposal, only being in its beginning stages, will be the subject of lack of need and oversaturation of apartments, and thus leading to the probability of significant lower monthly apartment rent, therefore attracting even less than luxury type residents and Section 8 housing. Best use. In my humble opinion, the location of this apartment building on Pinehurst Drive is a indirect sight and abutment up to an established, well-kept, growing neighborhood. It's not only contradictory to the definition of a livable and healthy living community as stated in our city website, but I believe it's a slap in the face to the hardworking residents who sacrifice savings and taking the chance to invest in a home in our city, just like I did. I ask every member of this committee to please take these points into careful consideration before making your vote. And I ask that you reject this apartment building development. Thank you for your time.
My name is Dave Lockridge. My wife Suzanne and I live at 823 155th Circle, so we're right next to Amy and Katie, who you heard from before. Those are wonderful stats, and I'm not going to improve upon that. What I will share with you is, like my neighbors, when we made a purchasing decision on our house, we were told that those will be single-story retirement villas, which is something that we thought we could tolerate, or the commercial as it's owned today. I believe Mr. Riley's plan is attractive. I don't believe it's the right space for that. As you vote, and I'll keep the comments brief, but as you vote tonight, I'd like you to consider, not just as a commissioner, but as a neighbor of ours, how would you like this 25 feet from your fence? Right? So when you vote, please keep that in mind, and please keep in mind everything you heard today in this room full of people who do not want this on this law. Thank you.
Hey, good evening. Jay Bryant Love, 15017 Josh Street. Not a member of the particular subdivision, but neighbors with Andy here. Just a couple of comments. Don't worry. No, one of the things, and again, we went through a very similar process in Prairie Lakes. This is certainly not the same, but it rhymes just a bit. One of the things that concerns me is, a staff's job is to provide objective input to the leadership so you can make informed decisions. Objective. It should be full. So plans themselves, as you know, are not, there's going to be pros and cons. But the only negative word I've heard from the staff is the word unlikely. When posed with some fairly serious, questions. I'll go down just a couple that stuck me. Number one, the traffic. The traffic study is absolutely, it's irrelevant in terms of useful data. So compared to an obsolete and old project with a proposed project. So you're going to see a traffic increase, but what you don't hear from the staff or from the developer themselves is what is the impact? What is the projected impact? We have traffic problems on state as we speak. It's incredibly dangerous to turn off. And so I want to hear what the so what of that data point is. And you don't hear that. So I'm not sure how you can make a decision based on that. Taxes. Are the taxes going to go up and home value is going to go down? Some projections should be able to be made, not just we call the penguin saloon. I don't know, but we'll find out later. That's it. Essential services, fire, police, and medical. What are the projected impacts of that? You need those to make informed decisions, not just a memo saying, yes, we've consulted with the school board. What does that mean long term, 10, 20 years down the road? Again, don't know. School board expansion of the personnel and infrastructure. Baser High School, I'm not sure there's plans, but it looks like they are out of room to develop. Just personal opinion, could be wrong. And then busing. What does it mean to the bus? Right now, there's a busing spot. I think the buses are overburdened. I've got 4 kids, and the buses are big. The drainage issue is the most concerning. Hearing that, the current problem that the residents face and then the projected fix, which it's conjecture at best. I'm not, that seems like a very serious problem to me. I'm not an engineer, but when the response to a fairly serious drainage problem is like, I'm not sure, that's a problem. So Basel needs, I think we need commerce in the right kind, and those transition points between actual businesses and the communities are fairly sensitive.
Time's up. So
Okay, all right. It's gonna say diversity of housing and value chain, so those should not come out of the mouth.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Members of the Planning Commission, Chairman, my name is Doug Albertson. I live at 155th Circle, 835 155th Circle. They're my neighbors. I attended all three meetings. And the initial meeting it was posed to us as like retirement villas. And then the second meeting was much smaller. Over at one of the residents over here, probably had 6, 7 of us. And yes, he engaged us fairly early on in the process. Those of us that are in those directly adjoining some properties right south. My concern is, unfettered access to our backyards, people looking in. I'll have basically my lot right here. And I'll have basically 3, 3.5, 4, to just be able to look right into my house. I provided a more detailed map that I had emailed in, but gentleman was right about the traffic. Anyone that's encountered having to turn from the east on state south on 155th knows you get 4 to 5 cars if you're lucky. The alternatives to that, you're turning back up over here, coming all the way down to the residential area up here, and then of course 158. I just don't think there's the infrastructure and the throughput. I'm worried about all those kids that live up back in that area too. Kids riding bikes, traffic goes up, this increased chances. It's almost like we have to try and pick the lesser of the evils. I did know it was C2, that lot, when I moved in here, and I'm willing to live with that, I guess. But I retired from the Marine Corps and I decided to move to Basel because of the community it was. And I've been here since 2014. And I've been since 2015-ish in that house before it really filled up. And I love the place and I just don't want to see it ruined.
Hello, my name is Angela Everett Jones. I live at 815 Circle. Some of the people said they didn't know that it was a commercial area over there. I didn't know. So supposedly there was a sign there. There was no sign when my husband and I moved there 4 years ago. We lived in Bonner Springs, built a home in Bonner Springs. And watched them build apartments and change that area. And it got to the point where so that you couldn't even get through the stoplight. It take you 4 or 5 times waiting at that same stoplight to get through because of the traffic buildup so bad. Things started happening in the neighborhood, and my husband and I decided to move home that we were going to be retiring. We looked in around the area from Piper to Lansing to Basel. And looked at Basel and Lansing for 2 years. And some of these guys in there, we drove the neighborhood every single weekend in Pinehurst Estates because we just felt like it was a beautiful neighborhood. It was not going to be a big community, a big neighborhood like where we came from. When we left there, we were one of the first houses that started, that built in that, in the first phase of that area. Here, this neighborhood was already established. As I said, we didn't know that it was a commercial site. We knew it was owned by somebody. They told us that our property even went over here and then the other side was common area, and then we found out that was a lie. But anyway, we left a home that we loved to move to Pacer. People in here knew my husband's truck, knew my truck, because they seen us drive in the area so much every weekend. I even went to a home association meeting before I even lived in the neighborhood, because I wanted to make sure this is an area where me and my husband, which is right around the corner, ready to retire, would enjoy living in. And being a Black person, living in a predominantly white neighborhood, not feeling like I'm unwelcome, I told my husband, this is it. They made me feel like I was accepted when I went to the home association meeting. I thought I was nervous and everything because I would feel like I would get some type of negativity, but I never did. But my husband and I went into Pinehurst Estates and decided this was for us. We've been there 4 years. We watched across the street where they tried to build apartments, and we know they were going to be low income apartments. The people who even we spoke with, we did a Zoom meeting.
Time is up, man.
Okay, that they didn't care. We just want our homes to stay where they are.
Good evening. My name is Brad Stitz. I'm at 821 Evergreen Street. And I understand Mike's in this to make money. Probably got the lot at a great deal and went up for auction. It's just the fact that we were originally told and everybody agreed with and liked the single story retirement, maintenance provided. That was great. Then it went to 2-story. And the last meeting, he thought it was like a 40 or 45 foot setback. And now it's asking for 25. So I'm just worried about that the story keeps changing and apartments just never get better. They always downgrade. Now, I don't want to see a Taco Bell in there. I'm perfectly happy with the single story apartment or retirement living. Nice, quiet, that's great. I would rather see a 2-story office building or a doctor's office than apartments, because that's generally going to be kept up. And if there's a problem, you've got someone to go to. If we have a problem with some of the residents in the apartments, it's calling the cops, and then that's just a pain. Anyway, I'd just rather see it, if it's gonna be rezoned. I like the single story. I think everybody did. And we were all fine with that. It's just that it kept changing. And apparently he says there's no market for the retirement houses, patio homes, but I think that to the east of the library, I believe those are Mike's that he's putting in that are the patio homes. So I'm not sure why there's not a market for retirement homes. I think that's actually an increasing market rather than anything else. So that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
My name is David Walsh, and I'm at 15527 Pine Ridge Road. I live just to the south of this property. So historically, I bought my home in 2006. And this is at least the 3rd time I've been in here talking about this. This type of structure and building has been talked about since I've been there. And overwhelmingly every time it's been, nobody wants it. The traffic engineer's assumptions and the statements they have in their report, it's only as good as the assumptions and the inputs in their calculations. I think they're flawed. You can't take it at face value. This isn't a KC Metro. Okay, you're never going to attract that KC Metro area. We don't want it to be KC Metro. We didn't move here because we want KC Metro area that was mentioned earlier. Attracting young professionals. I'm the father of 2 young professionals. This is what they want. They're going to live in Kansas City and they're going to have 2 and 3 roommates, especially for the price of this. So in reality, if you have 108 people, you might as well at least 50%, because at least half of them have roommates with roommates. When the economy gets bad, you're a businessman, you're gonna need to fill those homes. It's a slippery slope to Section 8. And we don't want it in the community. And please consider this.
Anyone else?
Josh Johnson, 15515 Spruce. We're not very welcome. I say choose your poison. It's coming. You're already in the Casey Metro. I've lived here 3 years. My car's been broken into 3 times. My business has been broken into. It's already coming from across the road. So you're not bringing any more in. I'd like to think our neighborhood is welcoming. I would rather apartments than, I don't know, Taco Bell right behind your house, tavern right behind your house. My house backs up to 155th Street. People look in my house. I knew that when I bought it. I looked at those lots up there. Chose not to buy them for the very reason we're talking about tonight. I believe in personal property rights, and somebody that owns property and asking to make a better proposition than what could go there. Good on him. Work with the guy. Maybe you guys can do something about it. But most people, if they don't want neighbors, they buy the property next to them or the one behind them. Looked at it myself, didn't want neighbors, thought about, hey, I'm gonna buy that lot so no one builds there. Guess what? Chose not to, so no one built it. Okay, $1,200 a month, $900 a month, they're gonna come here. I have an employee makes less than 50 grand a year and his spouse makes less than that, bought a $400,000 home here. Somehow, I know they would prefer to have a 2-bedroom apartment in this town. You can't even get employees and have businesses in this town right now because nobody wants to come out to base or work. This town's growing, it's not stopping. You know, I just say you better help plan it because you're going to get apartments sooner or later. You're going to get more homes. Got a nice valued home. My property's gone up probably 50% since I've lived there in 3 years. Most of it's not real money. Most of it's just based on what's gone on the last 3 years. But I'm telling you, you're going to need these people. Business owner here in this town. I cannot find employees. Cannot find them. They're not driving out here for the wages I can offer. And I'm not the only businessman in this community that's trying to find employees. You can't make it a $500,000 only town. It just doesn't work. You need everybody in this community to make the community work. Would I want it there? No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry they're doing that, but somebody owns that property and is going to do something with it. And I'm pretty sure you don't want drunks from a tavern or dumpsters right out your back door, because that's what it's going to be. So,
Thank
Ed Tinsley, 826 Evergreen. I just south of the border as we're talking here, and I'm going to focus on something that's already been discussed already, and I think it's because of what's happened over the last 7-8 years of me living here. I've been here before. The zoning meetings, we were looking at the memory care center, and I voiced the same message I'm going to say here, and I'm directing it to the city. We fight water issues daily. We've spent thousands of dollars. We're on the west boundary of Pinehurst. You've got the mess that they designed in 2006. The water is flowing and trash is flowing right across our properties. We haven't had a good 5-inch rain in probably about 3 or 4 years around here. We have a lot of new homes on that boundary. If we don't plan correctly and try to fix what the problem has right now, you're going to have a lot of homeowners with 2 to 3 foot of water in their basements from the next big rain. It is a battle. We fight it every day. 2 or 3 of us on that border. you put something with a lot of asphalt roof, it's got to be taken care of. I know they've done some plans. I'm not happy. I want more. Because I'm going to be calling you all when we fight 2 or 3, feet of water coming in our basements. We voiced this. I'm trying to be positive. I think it's planned, whatever is planned for this property and anything on Pinehurst is got to make sure that we're looking at water concentration. It comes down through that street and comes over the properties. And that's all I want to mention. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I'll
Second.
second. Oh,
Have a second. All in favor, Blake?
Yes.
Cecil?
Yes.
Stacy?
yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
I vote yes. Public hearing is closed. Commissioners, Jim, do you have any questions for staff?
No, I don't.
Comments? Ed, do you have anything?
I don't know, just a quick comment here. Both arguments for and against have been strong tonight. I would just say at a time when the city's growing to the point we are, we need revenue. Put in all these parks and trails and cool things that we voted on in the comprehensive plan. And, multifamily housing, apartments, whatever you want to call them, offer pretty minimal near-term benefit to the tax base. Vice commercial properties that contribute almost immediately to the tax base. So I would just leave it at that.
No, sir.
Stacy?
No.
Cecil, you have any?
I'm good, thanks.
Blake?
No, sir.
And the only thing I'm going to say is, and I said this at the previous meeting, I understand how people feel about properties changing in their backyards. I've heard this comment from numerous property owners that realtors don't give them all the information what possibly could happen in their backyards. I'm sorry. I really am sorry. But we can't make our decisions because you weren't given the whole story. And with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make this motion, but
First motion will be for a preliminary plat.
preliminary development plan. I'd like to take the liberty of going ahead and reading each of the conditions for approval so the audience hears them. I'm recommending approval of the preliminary development plan PPDP -003-22 for multifamily units at Edgewood, which offers the following conditions of approval. Number one, a final development plan in substantial compliance with the preliminary development plan will be submitted within 1 year after approval of preliminary development plan by the governing body. Number two, the submitted final development plan shall include an easement for the proposed greenway as identified in the Baser Active Transportation Plan. Number three, the submitted final development plan shall include all necessary construction and drainage and stormwater engineering reports. Number four, the approval of the preliminary development plan shall provide the following deviations. A, front yard setback reduction from 35 to 25 feet. B, allowance of 4 garage doors on one facade, provided that the garage doors are 2 separate styles.
Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
In favor, Jim?
No.
Ted?
Nope.
Tom?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Cecil?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes 5-2. Second issue is rezoning. From CP2 to PR. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval of the request to rezone from CP2 to planned residential PRZ 00322 with any conditions that are listed in the staff report.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, Jim?
No.
Ted?
No.
Tom?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Cecil?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
I vote yes, motion passes. 5-2. Item 9. Sure.
Guarantee. The matter is that.
That took courage. It took courage.
Mhm.
I do have a question. You know, as a some of it.
Before I go into
Yes, I have a question about number 8.
I do have a question about number 8 or this most recent action. When we do something like that, is it possible to let the audience know kind of what next actions would be? Or if there are any next actions, like the developer would need to come in with a approved plan and
Yeah, we can
Just-
update the shell.
Sure.
Has to state yet this item. will be heard by-
Yeah, no.
Thank you.
Item 9, PADM -003-23, letter from Mike Riley asking to accept revisions to the Greyhawk final development plan approved by City Council January 17th, 2018. Staff?
Good evening, Commissioners. Agenda item number 9 before you is a letter from Mike Riley regarding Greyhawk at Prairie Gardens final development plan. The engineer on this project is still Brett Napier. The applicant is requesting approval of amendments to his final development plan of Greyhawk at Prairie Gardens. This residential subdivision was originally approved in 2006. In early of last year, city staff did go through the pre-application process with the applicant regarding Greyhawk at Prairie Gardens 4th plat. During that process, the applicant did state that there was some updated floodplain information, which is the reasoning for the amendments tonight. So during that pre-application meeting, staff requested that the applicant submit a revised development plan for the city to review. There were stipulations within that staff report from the June 14th meeting. Number 4, prior to approval of future plats, a revised FDP must be submitted and reviewed by city staff. And number 5, prior to approval of future plats, a formal phasing document for amenities, including trails, shall be submitted and approved by the city. All of those documents were submitted, and that is what we reviewed for this request. In your staff report on page 121, city staff has the ability to approve minor amendments to final development plans. What qualifies as a minor amendment is listed within our code. As you can see with the highlighted yellow, these are all of the outstanding issues that staff did see that makes this application unable to be approved administratively. So you can see base zoning regulations, Article 7, Section 5, subsection N, O, and P do have some highlighted sections for your review. And then the applicant did state in his letter originally to the planning commission that at the time of the approval, it was communicated to the planning commission that the streets and proposed lots were simply placeholders, and further market research would need to be done. So staff has reviewed the proposed amendments, and due to the nature of the request, we are unable to approve any of these administratively. And we would request that the planning commission review case number PADM 003 23 to determine if the amendments that are proposed in the staff report are in compliance or not in compliance with the approved preliminary development plan. Specifically on page 120, this little Excel sheet will give you an overview of the proposed changes brought forth by the applicant based upon the phase. As you can see, phase 1 through 3 has already been completed. Phase 4 is in process, and phase 5 onward is future phases. We can see on phase 6, there's only a loss of 1 single family lot. Phase 7 and 8 would be a loss of 31 single family lots, and phase 9, there was no deviations. And that is it for staff comments. I will stand for any questions.
Questions? You? No. Good.
No, not really.
Is page 20 city generated or
Yes.
applicant generated?
City.
Thanks.
Would it be possible if the applicant just kind of point out some of the changes on the plat?
Absolutely.
Because it's not really clear in the staff report.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. So we are in the process, as you know, we've got phase 4 approved. We're in the process of designing phase 5. We've talked with staff about developing out of order. Phase 4 is approved. So just to give you some clarification, Prairie Garden Parkway, New Greyhawk Elementary here. Phase 1, all completed, all homes built and sold. Phase 2, wrapping through here, all homes built and sold with the exception of 2 homes that are in process of being sold. Phase 3, we have this cul-de-sac and these 2 cul-de-sacs. About 50% of those lots are covered with residential homes right now. Large majority of those are sold, but another 20 lots to cover from a building standpoint. Phase 4 has been approved and accepted by the city. It's these 3 cul-de-sacs here. So we have this cul-de-sac, and then this street that we effectively end right here for phase 4. There's, I believe, 42 lots in that phase. Hearing thoughts from our community, I know talking with staff, you know, if we continue going west, we're not getting to our manufacturing very quickly. And I know that's a desire on the part of staff, a desire on the part of us, a desire on the part of our neighborhood. So our plan is to shift here, even though phase 4 is approved. And we are currently working on phase 5, which will take this violet area along with this peach colored area. The road just to the west of the current Prairie Garden pool, that spine will come all the way down. And we will get our amenity package in the next phase. There's, I believe, 31 to 32 single family lots. And then we start up here with some of our multi-family that's currently already zoned and planned. But as was discussed from the date that we originally did this preliminary development plan, it was 6 or 7 years ago, and it was a different time in the city of Bayshore. There was no engineering that needed to be done for us to get this preliminary development plan approved at that point in time in the city of Bayshore. So no engineering work had been accomplished. It was basically a design on a sheet of paper. And so after we got everything approved and started working on our phases and full engineering, we had to bring a sanitary sewer line all the way up from 166th Street all the way through our property. With that, we did a flood study, and the original design
that we had houses all through here that is now flooded. So we effectively had to redesign the entire west side of the project anyway, because we're in the floodplain. So part of what you see is a redesign for necessary things, floodplain and engineering. Part of it is just a small redesign of lots. We actually increased the size of our amenity package, took 2 residential lots away, made a bigger area in a larger parking lot. So we lost a few lots there. The multifamily piece was originally planned, I would say, very close to 90% as it is presented here today. This spine was always in the plan. This connector street over to Prairie Garden Parkway was always in the plan. And this spine was also in the plan. The difference was there were some odd little cul-de-sacs that were in here. And it was just, again, as our thought at that time, they were just place settings for what was yet to be determined from a multifamily product standpoint, from a need for the community, recognizing that we thought this was going to be, you know, mid project to possibly late project. We didn't know what that might look like. We have a better concept now. Here you go. Yeah, so you can see the spine has remained unchanged. This connector street over has remained unchanged. The only difference is this is no longer a cul-de-sac. This remains pretty much the same. This comes through and ties in as another street, through street. Again, we did that at the time, not knowing what product we were going to build, what might be needed. We see, as you see what's kind of presented here, it's all, you know, it's all the same product. It's all townhome product. And I think from our perspective, we like the idea of creating a better visual of that, having 2 different or 3 different styles of product. So that is our plan. This being more townhome here, backing up to what is already now in Greyhawk and Prairie Garden. And then the inside being more of that garage underneath building, manor house building that you just saw with the Pinehurst lot. Similar product. So some of the changes that you see here again are necessary due to engineering. Some were just finalizing design based off of what we feel like the market is today and what's going to be reflected going forward.
Where are the additional units located that you?
So we're really losing a combination of 32 single family lots throughout the entire community, spread out through mostly through this particular area, but a couple through again the amenity package. A few, I think, through here. We had to lose one particular lot here, I think, again from engineering. So it's a little bit spread out throughout all the phases. We're losing single family lots. We are picking up units in this particular area, which is zoned for multifamily today. We're still under the maximum zoning, but we're picking up units in this particular area.
And exactly how were you doing that? Better utilization of the space or smaller units? What?
No, so if you look at the design from a lot perspective, the units are the same through here, coming down this side as well. These are the town units like we're always planned. I think we're definitely picking up units in what is called our big house or our manor house product here. Again, because we're not having to, we're stacking that garage underneath the units. It's a better utilization of the space. You'll see where those little cul-de-sacs were just, in my opinion, eating up a lot of ground. Very difficult to manage from a trash and fire perspective. We've been challenged a little bit with all of our cul-de-sacs here from staff regarding fire and trash and postal. They don't like cul-de-sacs. So this creates more of that through street, which I think helps with the design and also helps with the style of product. But that is where we're picking it up, really not changing the amount of ground that's already zoned and set. So it's really just better utilization.
You refer to manor style doors, and 12 buildings, 108 doors. Could you explain that a little better?
Yeah, so I refer to our Manor product, the big house product is, it's the same type of building that was on the Pinehurst lot with the garages underneath. And the 3 units on the main level and 6 units above. So with every building, we're getting 9 units. As opposed with, you know, again, and I think personally a better visual, when you look at townhomes. You know, even though I think there is a need for that product, what you typically see is a lot of concrete and a lot of garage. Is what you typically see with townhomes. And again, there's a need for that from a pricing perspective. Those will be owner, unit owned. This is just a different product mix that I think again is needed. It creates a better visual than just 108 townhome units with 108 garage units.
So previous units were 1 story as opposed to 2 story.
There was always a mix, Mr. Chairman, of 2-story in the townhomes. There was always going to be a mix of 2-story, 10-story townhome. That's the same as.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mike, just a little clarification for me. So kind of putting it in my simple-minded terminology here. So you as an investor in the Basehor community, successful, I have high regards for you. You've got a good reputation. You're a man of character and integrity, in my opinion. Thank you. You had no idea that was going to be a floodplain down there. And that's where the big homes were going to go, if I remember.
Right.
That's a lot of money. That's just gone. Had nothing to do with anything you did. It's just a force of nature. And there's nothing you can do about it. Other than try to get it out of a floodplain, which would cost an immense amount of money. Then all the dynamics of our community began to rapidly increase since this was put together, and the demand for housings has continued to go up, and all this stuff. So, you know, to the staff's credit, I appreciate very much their concern and their statement here. But by the same token, I have high regards for you as a professional, investing your own money into this project and doing it the right way so that you can sell your product. So I'm kind of torn between, you know, the staff expertise and your expertise. And I'm just kind of thinking, okay, well, what would I do if it were my money and I was trying to do the right thing? Because I know you're that kind of guy. And I would go your direction. And what you just said makes a lot of sense to me. I don't really understand a lot of the technical aspects, you know, here. So I may need coached on that. But I just throw that out and would love to hear some advice from anybody on it. That's my take on the matter.
Crystal?
Yeah. Would just like to point out, the staff is not opposed to Mr. Riley's development.
Okay.
In any way, shape, or
Okay.
form, not at all. Just our regulations lay out criteria that allow us to administratively approve deviations from approved development plans.
Okay.
And these deviations are greater than what we can approve. And so all we are asking for is you all to determine whether or not we can approve these deviations and march forward, or if the new development plan needs to be submitted that is in substantial compliance with what we've discussed this evening. So not opposed to it, completely understand where the changes are coming from. But we're just asking for your guidance on whether or not we can go ahead and move forward, or if an updated development.
Gotcha. Last question, Mr. Chairman. On action item number 1, help me understand the with or without conditions.
If you all wish to place conditions on.
So if I made a motion, just an example, and I just stopped at preliminary development plan period, we're good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The applicant referred to the street changes cul-de-sacs in. Has that been run by the fire department? I would, having been a firefighter at one point, would agree that that's probably a better design for access. Have
No, sir, we have
Right.
not, we haven't sent anything out for review because this is a request of Mr. Riley. Just to get kind of the temperature of the planning commission on whether or not. If it's determined that an updated final development plan should be submitted, then we will send all of that out. Now, if it's determined that an updated final development plan is submitted to the spot. Clearly, there's an update to what is taking place, right? So yes, we will send this to the appropriate entities so that everyone understands that there is a change. It's really the request is whether or not the whole process needs to be.
Mr. Chairman, two quick questions. Crystal, if we were to recommend approval, what is the next step? Does it go before the city council?
No, if
Okay.
you recommend that, then no, we're done.
We're done. Then my last question is, under action items, is there a potential third action item? Because I've heard you mention requesting an updated development plan a couple times. Is that a third option?
Well. So that's what this request is. If you all determine that this change is substantial enough
That spreadsheet is the updated changes.
in a nutshell, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, if you all determine that that is substantial enough that a new development plan needs to be submitted. Then Mr. Riley will submit a new development plan to go back through the public hearing process, the process.
basically that will come back through as the final.
Process.
Right, right, exactly. Ed? Yeah. Questions, comments?
No real questions. I mean, it seems like a pretty significant change to me, though. Based on what was originally sent in, so I'll just leave it at that.
Jim? Yeah.
No questions.
Any further questions? Commissioner? I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I make the recommendation to approve case number PADM 003 23 due to the amendments proposed to the final development plan being in compliance with the approved preliminary development plan. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
So I would.
Yeah.
Probably should have at these in the way, should have anticipated this better. I'm sorry, this is my fault. I should have anticipated this better. So Commissioner Waters, are you stating that your motion is that the planning commission is approving these deviations without further submittal of additional documents?
Yes.
That's what I thought you were doing, but I wanted to make sure that's what we all know.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Ted?
No.
Tom?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Cecil?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
I vote yes, motion passes 6-1. Item 10. PADM 002-23, text amendment to Article 12 of the basic zoning regulations. Public hearing is required. Staff is requesting this item be moved to May 9 planning commission meeting. We need a motion to approve that.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor, Blake?
Yes.
Cecil?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
I vote yes, motion passed. Move to next meeting. Item 11. PADM 004-23, text amendment to the Baser subdivision regulations. A public hearing is required. Staff?
Mr. Chairman, this is wait number PADM 004-23. This is the request to update the City of Baser's subdivision regulations specifically chapter 2, section 2102, subsection 5, and subsection 7. As we discussed on the first case of the evening, this amendment is being brought to you in order to bring our subdivision regulations in substantial compliance with the state statute that governs subdivision plats. Staff is requesting changes again to bring it into compliance. For the sake of clarity, I've outlined below in the staff report, I've outlined the changes. Currently, 1025 requires preliminary plats to be forwarded to the city council for approval. This step is unnecessary as state law requires the planning commission to make a determination, not a recommendation, but a determination on whether or not a plat meets the zoning district requirements. In the event the preliminary plat adheres to the zoning district requirements, the planning commission shall approve the plat and cause a final plat to be submitted for approval also, assuming of course the final plat is in compliance with the preliminary plat. Additionally, if the plat has deviations, then the planning commission would submit those deviations in writing to the developer and give the developer an opportunity to resubmit the plat to remedy the deficiencies. Excuse me, long evening. Further, subsection 7 currently requires city council review and take action on the preliminary plat prior to the submission of the corresponding final plat. Staff is recommending removing this this step altogether as it's unnecessary. It doesn't conform to state statute and it's burdensome and slows down development. The proposed changes again have been respectfully submitted by staff in order to clarify processes, remove burdensome language and unnecessary steps. Now these proposed changes must be approved by the city council. So if you all recommend approval of this, then the city council will also have to approve that. With that, I will answer any questions.
When would this go into effect? The reason I'm asking that is that we passed something earlier tonight that said that it needed to go, a plat that needed to go to the city council. That one will still go to the city council. But then if we approve this, then will the next month's stuff will not go in after that, or when will the timing be?
So this will be before the city council for action at the city council meeting this month, which is the 26th, I think would be the meeting date. So that's when it will be considered by the the city council, and then it needs to be published for it to be, once it's published.
Okay.
So items next month, probably not impacted thereafter, Commissioner.
Okay, I just specifically wanted that one item to go to the city council.
Yes, it was.
Because I think I told somebody in the city council it was coming to me.
Nope. I think generally I'm in favor of this. I'll be honest with you, without the redlining and everything, I am completely confused. I will probably, I would like it just to be continued so I can have a little bit clearer information. But I will bow to the will of the commission.
We can pull up what currently exists. That would be helpful.
Crystal, I appreciate that, but it's a bit late and yeah, I don't want to do that to my fellow commissioners. We've done enough to them.
Stacy, you have any?
No.
Comments? Cecil?
No, sir.
Blake?
Nope.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move, we continue do we need a public hearing for this?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's
But
right. we do.
I think we could probably do that next year if we move it to another date.
Entertain a motion for a public hearing.
Okay.
If I wanted to make a motion to move it to the May meeting,
You can also continue the public hearing to the May meeting.
I would make a motion to continue this to the May meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Blake?
Hi.
Cecil?
Yes.
Stacy?
Sure.
Tom?
Yes.
Yes. Jim?
Yes.
I vote yes, we'll move it to the
Thank you.
next meeting. Item 12, open agenda, we have none. I know of. Item 13, reports from special committees. I don't know if we have any committees. Item 14, development report. Uh-oh.
There it is. Year to date, commissioners, we have received a total of 12 single-family residential permits and 1 multifamily residential permit. We are starting to get more in line with where we were at last year. We had a slow start, but we're picking up. That's all I have.
Thank you. I have a question is for Cameron, when we're gonna get an update on the project. A lot of things going, okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Thank you. I'll say, I was gonna ask that question. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor? Blake?
Yes.
Cecil?
Yes.
Lacy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
Tom is done.
I'll stop it. Got us in under 2 hours.
That's earlier. I think I would. Yeah.